I have stumbled upon a bushcrafter's Aladdin cave, a bushcrafter's treasure trove, a bushcrafter's nirvana, the bushcraft pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. If you want to find out what it is that I've stumbled across, keep watching. Hi folks, I'm Craig Taylor, and as always a huge thanks for joining me here on my YouTube channel, The Bushcraft Padawan. If you're not yet a subscriber and you enjoy watching this video, then at any point during it, click on that red subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. It's there right now. Click that button, you'll become a subscriber and you won't miss any future videos from me. You join me today in my local woodland permission. I've been coming here for, crikey, it's got to be the better part of 3 years now. I like coming here, even though it's a slightly longer journey than some of my other woodlands, because I've got permission to be here. I've got landowner's permission. I can do almost anything you could imagine bushcrafty here, hence the reason I like coming here. Came here just before Christmas and had to take a slightly different route to the area I wanted to go. Why did I have to take a slightly different route? Because there was some forestry work taking place. I came back a week or two ago to find there's been a lot of forestry work taking place. You're seeing some of the evidence of it now. The great news was that when I contacted my mate Tom, who's part of the sort of the woodland ownership committee, gave me permission to come here and take away and basically forage through this felled timber to find anything that I might want to take away and do some carving projects with. I've mentioned in the past that I want to get better at carving. It's one of those things where I go in peaks and troughs. I'm really keen, I'll carve something, it will turn out one way or the other, and then I shelve it again. I think one of the reasons for that is because I find it hard to find wood in the right condition that I am comfortable with taking. There's loads of live trees around here. People probably wouldn't miss if I were to fell one for a wood carving project, but to fell it just for me to carve a spoon seems a little extreme and unfair. However, when they're being felled in the quantity that they're being felled here for other reasons, my conscience is less worried about taking a couple of feet, a couple of sections here or there, because the trees have been felled anyway with the permission of the landowners. And that's what today's video is all about. It's a little unusual. It is going to be me foraging through all of this felled timber that you see here for anything that I can see that could be useful for me for a green woodworking project in the future. There's Sweet Chestnut that I'm looking at. There's loads of Silver Birch. I know that both of those are good for carving. There's loads of Silver Birch in good condition with all of the bark hanging off. Definitely going to harvest that for future firelighting projects. If I can find any correct diameter Silver Birch with the bark in good condition, I may take some to try and experiment with making some shrink pots out of. So that's why I'm saying this is a real bushcrafter's treasure trove. The sheer amount of useful species that have been felled is quite breathtaking. So without further ado, I'm going to break out the axe, I'm going to break out my large bow saw, and I'm going to start foraging. Join me. Got a lovely couple of pieces of Sweet Chestnut here, nice and straight, don't seem to have sustained much if any damage as it's actually been felled. Quite a lot of pieces I've seen, they've sort of split vertically. These haven't, they're looking good nick. They're quite close to my car as well. My car's got to be 25 metres in that direction there, so quite close by. These are much bigger than I normally go for. Normally when I'm looking for stuff to carve spoons with, I kind of go for something maybe like that. You know, basically by the time you've sort of taken the central part out, the pith, and the time you've taken sort of the radial edges at the end out, there's not much left. I can maybe get 1 or 2 spoons at the most out of it. My thinking is by going for something like this, the sort of size I usually see Tom from Spoon Carving with Tom, if you're watching Tom, hello, on Instagram. If something bigger, I can get more billets. Billets or blank, billets I think is the right word, that I can turn into blanks, so I've got more to work with. So yes, it's a bigger piece of wood, it's more effort to cut and to transport back there, but actually maybe I've got quite a few spoons worth of wood in that, meaning theoretically, I'm more likely to keep my spoon carving up because I can quickly go and get a billet out of the freezer. And yes, just coming into shot there, you can see Willow's already made herself at home in these stinking, stagnant, standing water puddles. As you can see, she's at home. Going to take some of those for now. Going to chop those down. Going to be using the folding bucksaw that my dad made me. The last time this was on camera was the end of August, beginning of September, and about a week after I held it up and said I must use this more, my dad made it for me. My dad was taken into hospital and died at the end of September, so this is the first time it's been out and been in use, and clearly it's got a real sentimental value to me. Always had, even more so now, so that saw needs to be used for what my dad made it for, which is to cut wood up, and that's a nice little opportunity to do that today. So I'll be using that. If I need to do any snedding, which is taking the limbs off at the edges, I've brought my Hulter Falls classic hunting axe with me. These have been felled in such a way professionally that there doesn't seem to be much on the edges, so aside from a lot of sawing, looks like it's a relatively simple job. So I'll stop waffling to camera, let's start cutting some of these up, getting them back to the car, and then I can turn my attention to looking for some of the more delicate stuff, the bark, and some smaller silver birch limbs for shrink pots. Precious. Just going to stop for a few minutes and grab myself a bite to eat and a drink out of my flask. But I wanted to update you on something I've learned or remembered the hard way this morning. A couple of minutes ago in the video I showed you some nice big thick pieces of sweet chestnut that I wanted to section down. Started sawing and realised very quickly, whilst this is an amazing saw, you can only cut to the depth of that, because of course once it's deeper than that, your log is starting to hit this cross member here. So I readjusted my ambitions throughout the morning, shall we say, and I've taken a few smaller pieces. However, I still do have my eye on some of those larger pieces, those larger chunks. So I've given Tom, the guy that's given me permission to come here today, given him a call, sent him a text. He's actually coming at 2 o'clock today anyway, and he's going to bring his chainsaw with him. So I may be slightly cheating in my endeavours today, but yeah, there's a few pieces here that I'd be really it'd be disappointing to walk away from. So he's going to lock them up for me using his chainsaw. But trust me, the vast majority has been done by my dad's fantastic work by his saw today. Right, I'm going to grab a bite to eat, lop up a few more pieces, and then I'll come back to you with an update as to what I've gathered so far. No campfires today, no fire starting techniques, no billy cans or anything like that, just a flask of hot chocolate and a sandwich from the shop on the way here. Bloody hell, that's hot. Still feels like quite an unusual video. Normally my videos, I feel that I'm trying something out, I'm practicing something, I'm refining something, I'm practicing something that is, this is going to sound cheesy, overtly bushcrafty. Doesn't feel like that in this video. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's the reason I'm not doing as much spoon carving, because let's be honest, I'm not gathering the resources to do it. It's always an important fact, isn't it? Have the resources to practice what you want to practice. So maybe today's a necessary evil. Quite enjoyed it though. Quite enjoyed it. It's been interesting to look at the woods from a different perspective. It's been interesting to come to this area and see it completely felled. I've discovered from the guy you might be able to hear in the background there, he's doing some of the forestry work. A lot of this is going to biomass. So he's going to actually go to a hospital in the local area to help heat that hospital from a more natural perspective. Interesting, I was actually in that hospital probably about a month or so, maybe a little bit long, maybe 6 weeks ago, having a long leg x-ray. It's one of the few hospitals in this area, this part of the country, that do long leg x-rays. The reason I went for a long leg x-ray, I won't go into too much detail, but regular viewers and subs will know that I've got buggered knees. Last spring and summer I went and had a knee operation, my 6th or 7th one, took me off the road for a little while. Technically speaking, the operation was a failure from a surgical perspective. They went in to trim the cartilage. There is no cartilage left, nothing. I now have officially grade 4 vulgaris or something. Anyway, grade 4 rheumatoid arthritis. I've got it. I'll never get rid of it. I can't cure it. But they're not giving up on me. I'm going into hospital on the 3rd of February, so in about 3 weeks or so, something like that, just less than 3 weeks, to have another operation to fix my knee, which involves them, wait for it, fracturing my femur, biggest bone in my body, to try and correct the angle of my leg to alleviate the rheumatoid arthritis. So there you have it. To fix my knee, they're going to break my leg. There's a very good reason why I'm not a medical professional or a GP or a surgeon, but that's what's going to happen. So expect to see me in the coming weeks or two, maybe doing another. Funny that, isn't it? Disappears, completely disappears. I just about break the seal on the sandwich, and there she is, bless her. You're a lovely girl, good girl. So expect to see a video from me in a week or two, or maybe from the hospital waiting room like last time, with me just announcing me potentially being off the road. That is another reason why I'm getting a lot of this stuff stocked up now, so that when I'm at home, when I'm immobile, when I'm in a cast or whatever it is that's going to happen after they break my leg, they don't call it that, it's called an osteotomy is the official title of it, but yeah, they're breaking my leg, so that once I've got some materials, I can actually do a little bit of stuff at home, and not feel as what's the word I'm looking for, caged, not feel as caged as I normally do if I'm not able to get out. Anyway, I'm going to stop waffling. I'm going to sit and eat this in front of her, not going to give her a scrap until the very end, and then I'm going to give her a few of her dog biscuits that I brought out with me. Yes, I will, a few of her dog biscuits that I brought out with me. So join me after my lunch if you will, and I'll take you through the kit that the resources that I've gathered so far. Remember earlier in this video when I said I'm waiting for my mate Tom to turn up with a chainsaw because this piece of silver birch I want to go through is too thick for my bucksaw. The problem is that as you're sawing through, the blade descends to a certain point and this cross member stops it going any further. So I need that log to be smaller in diameter, but it isn't, and the saw can't make it smaller in diameter. But an axe can. So I've been thinking that's the burning smell that you can detect. What I did was I just used my axe to hack away a V into the wood by 3, 4, 5, 6 inches. That was enough for this to then drop into that wood a further 3, 4, 5, 6 inches, and for the blade to carry on doing its work. So it's taken me most of my time out here to fathom that out, but I'm pleased that I did, because what it now tells me, what it now gives me some confidence is that this can manage fairly significant pieces of timber. It can handle fairly significant diameters, but it can't handle it on its own. By bringing the axe out as well, and I hadn't used it up until this point, by bringing the axe out, that allowed me to reduce the diameter to allow that to do its work. Probably took me 2 or 3 minutes in total from coming up with the idea to being able to knock a V out to be able to get that to saw all the way through. So really, really pleased. I just hope that Tom wasn't coming out just on my account. Bit embarrassing if he was. Well, the sun is starting to drop now and I'm starting to get a little bit tired, so it's probably a good time to down sharp axes and saws and take stock of the day. Bizarrely, for humping and dumping heavy pieces of wood and sweating and flailing heavy objects around, I've really enjoyed the day. Let's have a look at my haul that I've managed to gather from today's outing. If you look at this from left to right, you can see two big, thick, hefty pieces of silver birch, betula pendula. I've actually got those for a friend of mine, Stephen Lissay, Axe and Paddle Bushcraft, who sees some canoe paddles. I think they're canoe paddles, yeah, probably too small to be stand-up paddles. Some canoe paddles in each of those, so I've got those for him as a favour. Then we've got three pieces of smaller diameter silver birch for myself and Stephen again, to probably some spatulas or some spoons within those. Then we've got a couple of pieces. There's a long piece of slightly bent Sweet Chestnut, castaneae sativa. Wanted to try my hand at a cranked spoon that's got a natural bend in it from the shape of the limb itself. So I decided, I got my eye on that piece and I've taken that away. And just to the right of that is a shorter, squatter piece of Sweet Chestnut, again to potentially get some spoons or a spatula out of. And then to the right of that, on the far right hand side of the picture, got a very long thin limb from a sapling, and sat next to that is a really short squat fat piece again of Sweet Chestnut that Tom took down for me with his chainsaw, and you may just be able to see he's carved a little notch into that. I am going to try my hand at creating an axe block to actually help me craft these wooden tools, these green tools from the wood that I've taken today. So all in all, I don't think that's a bad day's haul. Probably taken more. It'll probably be out of condition by the time I get round to using all of it, but certainly knowing that I've got some rounds there and some blanks there and some billets there to work with when the fancy arises, is certainly going to be more beneficial to my spoon carving endeavours than what it is at the moment, which is I have nothing, so I need to go out into the woods and get something. And as I said at the beginning of the video, taking a tree down just for me to carve a spoon from doesn't seem like the best use of resources. All in all, a good day. Highlight of the day wasn't actually getting that timber, to be perfectly honest. The highlight of the day was that simple problem solving I did earlier on, where I cut a V, or chopped a V with my axe into the thick diameter wood, and then used my saw to go through the rest. Some of you are probably laughing at me thinking, yeah, why didn't you just do that straight away? Why didn't you think of that straight away? The answer is because I didn't. One of the things I like about bushcrafting is that element of problem solving that's involved in it. So the fact that I didn't think of that straight away, the fact that I sort of had to come to that conclusion by a thought process, I'm actually quite pleased with. So my highlight of the day isn't necessarily the timber, it's solving the problem about how to use my axe and saw together to actually be able to limb up several thicker pieces that I wouldn't be able to do with the saw alone. Thank you for joining me out today, folks. Hope you've taken something from it. Like I said earlier on over lunch, doesn't feel like a normal bushcraft video. I'm not sure what you can take from this, but if you just like to see a bloke out in the woods getting wood, then I guess this video flicked your switch. Thanks as always for joining me. If you did, if you're a subscriber, massive thank you, as I always say. And if you're not and you did enjoy this video, click that red subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. Round about now, you'll become a subscriber and your New Year's wishes will be granted in one fell click. See you in the woods very soon, folks. Take care. Cheers.